Welcome to Skip versus Ernestine. This is round 6. Welcome to the hottest new show going right now. We do fight. We make up.
Yeah.
We do somehow love each other.
We do.
I think more than ever.
Could be.
And now we bring all of the above out here on camera for all the world to see with our 8-year-old Maltese Hazel refereeing.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, Hazel was such a trooper, the warrior Princess Hazel. Over the weekend, all day Sunday, she sat at my feet in her bed watching football. We watched Cowboys Commanders. We watched Aaron Rodgers, I believe, last game with the Jets.
Yeah.
Then we watched the game of the year on Sunday night as the Lions steamrolled the Vikings, and she stayed right with me start to finish. Poor Hazel. She is my good luck charm, as we're about to get into.
Until your game loses, and then she's not good luck.
We'll do that in just a second. And by the way, we will get to your questions and comments in just a few minutes. This week we had so many great ones. We actually got into an argument trying to pick the best of the great ones.
We did. That is true.
But we begin today with Ernestine's favorite rip skip topic, which she started to go down the road already. Yeah. That's my game watching jinxes.
Jinxes. I did an entire chapter in my book, Bowls, How to Keep Your Relationship Alive When You Live with a Sports with That Guy, on jinxes. He has 1,000 jinxes. And believes
she has learned them all because she has violated every single one of them.
Yeah. Walking into the room is a violation in this house.
This time, my dear wife, Ernestine, jinxed one of the greatest college football games ever. I am talking about Texas and Arizona State in overtime on New Year's Day. Wait till you hear this story. But, okay, you started, now finish. Tell the people why you scoff at, you even laugh at the jinxes I religiously observe every game.
Things. If he's watching a game and I walk into the room and his light is on and I turn the light off, he makes me walk backwards to turn the light back on again.
Thank you.
Okay.
You learned that in our first year together back in New York.
If I happen to say, oh, your team is winning, that's great. He said, you just jinxed me, now my team is going to lose.
Yeah, game over, I lost.
He has his favorite T-shirt that he has to wear if it's in the laundry.
It's her fault.
It's a nightmare. I have to take it out of the dirty laundry, and he puts it on even if it's dirty. And we go on and on and on.
Where's my cowboy hat? What did you do with my cowboy hat? Well, I put it over here.
10,000 other baseball caps.
Okay.
Yes.
Right.
I took the cowboy hat. Yes, and now your team's not going to win.
Okay.
Whatever.
And who is my favorite Buddha, as you call her?
Hazel is the Buddha.
Warrior princess.
That is until she is the bad Buddha and his game loses. And then Hazel gets ejected out and she comes sheepishly looking for me, and I know that his game is going south.
Right?
Yes, that is the truth.
Okay. But if you dare to, sometimes on a Sunday, you and your sister Joyce will take her for a walk, and you have to plan the walk.
I have to plan the walk
around my cowboy game.
At 10 o'clock in the morning. No, before the 10 is the 10 o'clock game on Sunday. I say to him, when can I take Hazel walking? When is she allowed to go out? Like she's some kind of, she's going out. Her dad's not going to let her go out with the boyfriend. When can I take Hazel
1:15 after the early window game. We're out here in LA. So we
quickly have to walk Hazel around the complex, because if it's 1:14 and a half and I don't get her back, she can't go in the room, because
once you start watching a game, what do I always tell you about the living room?
If you're going to watch the game, you cannot leave.
You can start.
You cannot go to the bathroom. You have to stay there. It's kind of like when I lived in New York and I occasionally would go to watch the ball fall in Times Square. They lock you up in a pen.
You get locked in the pen.
And you go there
can't
at
leave
12
the whole
o'clock
night
in the afternoon or 10 o'clock in the morning
to
get
that.
Into Times Square, and they quickly lock you up, and you cannot leave until after the ball falls. So you have to.
By the way, if you can't tell, she's from New York. I'm from Oklahoma City. Maybe you can't tell from the accent, but that's.
Of course, I have an accent. He has no accent, but I do have an accent.
And understand, she went early on into our relationship knowing nothing about sports, except she played at high school football games in the marching band at halftime.
Clarinet. I was an excellent clarinet player. And
and Woody Allen, right?
Me and Woody Allen and Woody Herman.
And Woody
If
Harmon.
you want
There
to
you
go back
go.
and
I
Artie
don't know
Shaw.
anything about
What-
clarinets, but I know all about sports.
Yes, I do know that. Yeah.
And I know all about what you did to me. I'm going to get to the all-time classic in a moment,
Yeah.
but let's stay
Here we go.
current.
Yes, current time.
Arizona State and Texas. I saw in The Athletic the other day, they ranked this game,
Uh-huh.
not that you care, but they ranked
No.
this game
Yeah,
as the
okay.
second greatest college football postseason game, bowl game, playoff game in history. To one you'll vaguely remember. It was when we were living in a previous place, but out here in LA.
Yeah.
It was my second year here.
Yeah.
And my Oklahoma Sooners, you know how much I love them.
I do know.
Featuring Baker Mayfield at quarterback, played out here in Pasadena in the Rose Bowl in the national semifinal against Georgia.
I don't
and it
remember
went
all these
double
games.
overtime. And I was watching it in the living room, but you couldn't come in the living room
I don't remember
because you didn't
Skip,
start
we watch
the game.
1,000 games. How do I remember
But that
one
was ranked
specific game?
by The Athletic as the number one all-time greatest college football
That's what
finish.
They do. They have to.
We lost, unfortunately.
Game,
She probably jinxed it somehow by walking through the
by
living room.
Breathing.
But this was the second greatest college football game ever. And little did you know, because you don't keep up with this kind of thing.
No, I don't.
On my show, the Skip Bayless show,
Yeah.
I did predict that it was a stone cold lock for me to take Arizona State plus 13 and a half points. I know you don't really get the point spread issues, but I said up front, on the record, give me Arizona State plus 13 and a half.
Right.
And I didn't feel real good about it. In fact, I tweeted about it early on because Texas immediately jumped out to, I think it was a 14-3 lead, and it just felt like it was going to be 40-3 before it was over. Then here came my cuddly little underdog, Arizona State, and put on one of the greatest shows ever. So it goes to overtime, and I've won my bet because you can't win an overtime game by more than, I guess, 8 if you go for 2. But you can't get to 13 and a half in overtime or the game's going to be over before then. Okay, so I'm good on the bet, but now I have fallen head over heels in love with Arizona State, with Cam Scatterbo.
I know this. I'm in a different part of the house.
Okay, but I'm out of my mind for this game because it is as scintillating and exciting and over the top great as you can, because it was just one thing after another. In the fourth quarter, Arizona State roared back, and they're making play after big play, and it looked like Cam Scatterbo he vomited on the sideline because he claimed
I'm about to vomit here.
But he claimed he had downed too much water, which I find hard to believe, and he just barfed it up. And then he kept taking himself out of the game because he had stomach issues. But then he would come back in. He threw a touchdown pass. He was pretty lucky, but he threw it. Then he ran for a big touchdown and just willed his way into the end zone. And I'm out of my mind. And Arizona State goes up 7 in overtime.
Okay.
And now Texas has to match that by scoring from the 25-yard line. They have to go score. She's lost on this, but it's okay.
This is like I'm in another
But
country.
they have to go.
Whatever.
They have to go score 7 points to force a second overtime. I think you get that.
I get it all. I've gotten it all.
So all of a sudden, this is the God's truth.
This is all I wanted to do.
Texas.
So minus all of this.
Okay. Texas gets forced into fourth down. It's the last down you get.
Yes, I get that.
And 13 yards to go, which is 3 more than usual, the 10 yards. Okay, so it's 4th and 13 from the 28-yard line, and it feels like it's about to be game over. And all of a sudden, guess what happens? Literally, just as the ball is about to be snapped, literally.
Here I am. All I do is every weekend there's a yogurt store here. It's like when I lived in New York, it was called Tasty Delight. People know what that it was. It was featured on Sex and the City. It was very famous. They don't have that out here. So I call whatever the yogurt store is out here Tasty. I go, do you want Tasty?
It's called the Big Chill.
It's called the Big Chill. Yeah, it's kind of famous.
On Olympic Boulevard, it's great.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Not as good as Tasty Delight in New York City.
Non-fat frozen yogurt. Okay.
So I usually go on a Saturday and I buy the new flavor, but they have like 7 flavors. So every weekend I say to Skip, hey, what flavor do you want? So I was just about to walk out the door. I had my handbag on my shoulder. And I said to myself, oh, let me ask him what flavor he wants. So I just opened the door and I go.
She didn't knock.
No.
I'm in my man cave.
Yeah, he's in his man cave.
Yeah.
I go, hey, the flavors today are, and he goes, wait. Stop! I didn't know what was going on.
Stop. No.
So I just quickly pulled the door back and I was like, I'm out of here. And I just walked out and I hear him cursing in the room.
I broke my New Year's resolution already.
F this, that, whatever. I'm losing the game. And I just got in my car and I left.
Okay. What happened?
Once again, the
faithful fans will know.
Yes.
I got all-time jinxed because
I have power.
I'm slow motion watching the game. It's like the game for me slows down into slow motion on my screen. Mm-hmm. And Arizona State, Hazel, so she's going to sleep.
She's bored.
Yeah, she's had enough of this because she was there. She was at my feet. Yeah. And she goes, Mom did it again.
Yeah.
It's like Arizona State went into slow motion because they were going to blitz, which means that they're going to send a whole bunch of guys after the quarterback, okay? And they're going to leave some receivers open because they're going to get to the quarterback before he can get rid of the football or at least force him to make a bad pass and the game's going to be over. I like the call. I don't mind the gamble of the blitz, but somehow the whole group mistimes their blitz. And they get stuck on the snap count at the line of scrimmage where they all come to a halt. So nobody gets a running start at the quarterback.
Okay, but let me ask you. I am here in Los Angeles. How I can change a game in, where was this?
Atlanta.
It's
the Peach Bowl.
I need to immediately, I don't know who won if they won that $1 billion lottery. I need to immediately go and just fill out one because that's all I have such magic powers that I can change the game.
And by the way,
just walking in the door.
The great irony of this conversation is, what do we laugh about was the first year I knew you.
Oh God, it's going to go on forever. In my head.
No, but
Tom Brady?
No, we got sent. My show, I was on Cold Pizza, and Woody Page and Jay Crawford and I got sent to a lot of college football sites where game day was camped.
Yeah.
And we would go for a Friday show. And so we went to South Bend and Blacksburg and where else we go? Tuscaloosa. And we went to Austin, Texas, to the University of Texas.
I remember.
And
I got hit by a car that weekend.
That was Notre Dame.
The other time. Oh.
Okay, but close enough.
I remember.
She survived. She was okay. She's tough.
Man. Yeah. Tough.
But I was given a University of Texas burnt orange and white ball cap.
Which I liked and I took from you.
And she took it from me. And I hate Texas because I grew up an Oklahoma fan and they're our arch blood rival.
But I like the color.
And she liked the color and I hate the color. I think it's the ugliest color in the history of color.
Please.
And she started wearing the hat.
It fit me well.
And we would walk down 8th Avenue in New York City on a Saturday morning or whenever it would be.
Yeah, and I would get the horns. People would show me the horns.
They would walk by people and they'd go, hook them.
I thought they were just giving me the evil eye.
Yeah, and she had no idea. And now then we started making jokes about
my team.
You graduated from Texas,
my alma mater. My alma mater's playing.
So you realize you won the game.
Yeah.
Who knows? You might have won the national championship for Texas.
Right.
By jinxing Arizona State.
I did a good thing for me.
Okay, so the blitz comes to a screeching halt at the line of scrimmage and everybody's teetering at the line in slow motion. And then the ball gets snapped and they just get stoned across the board.
But that was because of
everybody got blocked because you stopped. You made time stop.
Oh my God.
To where they got stopped in time and they lost all their momentum and Quinn freaking Ewers just stands back there with no pressure and nothing but time and just flips a 28-yard touchdown pass to Matthew Golden, who's become his new star receiver transfer from Houston. And it's like a gift. It's the sweetest, easiest touchdown pass you will ever see. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I'm going to lose because
I opened the door. It is the most.
But you couldn't have opened
thing.
of all the game. These college games, especially with the 2 overtimes, it took 4 hours to play.
I know.
And how did you pick the exact precise moment? You couldn't have picked a worse moment to throw the door open and say, "Hey."
Because I have magic powers.
No, seriously, I think you do, and I think some evil force
right,
lurking in the back of your
Ernestine
brain.
says, "Hey,
right?
open the door now, and then you're going
And
to
you
really
got 'em.
screw them up."
You
yeah,
got
I
him.
did it.
And you won the game. As God is my witness,
Oh my
help
God.
us, God. That happened.
like-
Did it not happen? Right on that time.
It
And I
would have
went out of
happened
my
whether
mind.
or not
I was just
If I didn't open the
dumbfounded.
door, or I did open the door, it would be the same turnout. That's what I keep trying to explain to him. Just because I walk into a room, it would be the same ending to a game that if I didn't walk into the room. I don't know
Okay.
how you can't understand that.
I
but
can't.
You can live. You keep
I've
living
seen
that
but
world.
How many times have I told you?
Oh, I'm going to
that-
change the game.
Okay, how many times do I change a game or we turn it on in mid-game?
It just happens.
And I'm rooting for some team and we've been to dinner or whatever, and I say, well,
and he says, "Oh,
I'll
watch
pick it
this.
up.
I'm going to turn the TV on and I'm going to change
turn
this
the game. I
Well,
will
the
turn
odds are maybe it's
and
a
so
50-50.
if my team is way down when I turn the game on,
Yeah.
they will suddenly rally. Or if they're way up and I turn the game on, it's over.
It's
and they
just
go,
it's a 50-50 shot.
Yeah.
It's not, you didn't have the power to change the game.
I do. And I've demonstrated, and I always call you on it, and I say,
God.
look at what just happened.
The odds will be
Hey.
that way.
Yeah.
You're either going, oh, you're losing Hazel. It's
Yeah.
either, yes,
Come
you
on.
will change the game because that's the way the game was going, or you're not going to change the game because that's the way that bottom line is, you don't have the power.
You
and neither
have
do
the
I.
power.
No,
You have the power.
I do not have the power.
Okay.
If I had the power, man, if I had that power.
What happened? New England at Kansas City in the cold in the AFC Championship game. This was in early 2019. I am obviously rooting for Thomas Edward Patrick Brady Jr. and the Patriots to win at Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And they're underdogs. And in my heart of hearts, I don't think they can win this game.
Right.
But with Brady, anything is
Here
always
I go
possible.
again. I have the power.
Okay. This was the all-time
Wicked.
classic.
I have the power.
So New England, I forget if they took the opening kickoff, but they scored first.
Mhm.
They're up 7-0, and they hold Patrick Mahomes, and they're driving again, and they drive all the way down to the 1-yard line.
Mhm.
So they are on the doorstep
Mhm.
of going up in the first quarter 14-0. And if they go up 14-0, I believe that stands up. I
Okay.
think Brady with the running game and the Belichick's defense, they could
Right.
make that stand up even against Patrick Mahomes, even
Okay.
at Arrowhead. It's 3rd and goal at the 1.
Right.
So if you miss fire on this play, you might go for it, but you might early on just say, oh, we'll just take the field goal. So it's kind of the worst case scenario in my head is they'll fail and just say, let's just take 3. And just before the ball is
Here we go.
snapped, right on
got the
schedule,
power.
before the ball is snapped,
Yeah.
I'm in my man cave. We're in a different place that we were living in
Right.
when we first got out here to LA.
Yeah. There she goes.
She blows through the door and says, "Hey, do you want?" And it was just irrelevant.
Your aunt sent you some FedEx
It's
came on a
actually
Sunday.
my third cousin. I don't know what she.
I don't know.
was.
It's a
May she
FedEx.
rest in peace.
It's a FedEx, so I think it's
Okay.
important. So
It
that's
was-
why I said, "Hey, you got this FedEx from?" No, that was
just
even
screamed,
worse.
No.
Yeah.
And she stands in the doorway as I watch. It's okay. You gotta wait.
Yeah. Once again,
she stands in the doorway as Tom Brady of all-time great goats.
Yeah.
Stands up with the football at the line of scrimmage, short drop, and throws it right to Reggie Ragland, who happens to play linebacker for the Kansas City freaking Chiefs.
Not my fault.
Tom
can't
Brady
play.
throws it. Yeah, he's just the greatest player ever. And he throws it right
apparently
to
he's
the
not.
Chiefs linebacker in the end zone. A cardinal sin turnover that I don't know if he's ever done that in his life.
It's Tom Brady's fault, not my fault. If he's throwing to the wrong team, it's not my power. It's his arm.
Okay. But I figured that was a game loser. And that was the most classic all-time jinx. But because you did cease and desist and you backed
So the
out,
jinx
you took
rewound.
the jinx
rewound.
away.
It's like Bewitched, the
Yeah.
TV show.
Yeah.
I
did it.
rewound,
Yeah,
and
that's exactly
I
what
never
happened.
came in that doorway, and everything was okay.
Everything was you blinked
Oh my God,
you
this is
squinched your nose
insanity.
up like
I wiggled my nose like
Samantha.
Yeah,
did.
Samantha.
Yeah. I love Samantha. God,
I know.
It's my
I
favorite
know,
all-time
I know you love
interview in
her,
my
and she's
history of
great.
interviews.
Elizabeth Montgomery.
I got to actually interview Elizabeth Montgomery when I was doing a story out here when I was at the LA Times soon
remember.
after college.
She was in that movie with OJ.
She was in a TV movie, and they were playing like
Cops.
buddy cops
Yeah.
who were.
Yeah.
It was called, ominously, A Killing Affair.
Oh,
A
God.
Killing Affair, and she looked like.
Bewitched.
But no, she looked like OJ's
Oh,
wife.
she looked like
She looked a
Nicole.
lot like Nicole.
It's terrible.
And I don't know if they're having something or not,
Maybe.
but people on the set were winking at me like maybe.
Uh-huh.
But Elizabeth Montgomery, who I was just
Gaga.
like smitten with,
Right.
because I grew up watching Bewitched.
Who wouldn't? She was
Yeah.
gorgeous.
I didn't grow up watching it. It came
No,
a
but
little
she came later, but she
but
was beautiful.
she was just stunning.
Just
and she
gorgeous.
agreed to step outside her trailer and just lean up against the fence there and chat with me for like 15 minutes about
So
OJ's
sweet.
acting ability.
Wow.
And she was very demure and quiet. I think she was a little intimidated by any media where I'm going to be careful with what I'm saying. But she was nice.
Wow,
and
she was beautiful.
I was just fumbling and bumbling and stuttering questions out because of all of my interviews in the history of my career.
Yeah.
That was the most overwhelming moment of my career.
Wow.
Was Elizabeth Montgomery.
She came to life.
I've interviewed Muhammad Ali and every famous football coach, Tom Landry and Bill Walsh and Don Shula and Magic Johnson and Joe Namath, and I could go on, but nothing compared to my interview with Elizabeth Montgomery.
She was bewitched.
Okay, and I was bewitched by you with the all-time jinx.
Okay, time out.
Time out?
Time out.
Okay, but
it's insane.
Okay, I just demonstrated 2 all-time moments in which you picked the moment to change the game.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that would happen no matter what. Whether I walked into a room or I didn't walk into a room, Tom Brady would still throw to the wrong.
You impacted. It's like the butterfly flaps its wings in the jungle in Africa somewhere or in South America. Tunisia, right. And that somehow creates a tidal wave in Japan. Right,
that's me. Tidal wave.
That's what happened. You created a tidal wave because you can't pick the moment any worse. That had to be.
I know everyone out there.
You created the worst moment in Tom Brady's playoff career.
Yeah, I did. Why don't you blame it on him? Maybe he didn't practice enough before the game.
All he did was won 7 out of 10 Super Bowls.
Talk to him. Talk to the hand. It was his hand that did it. So I'm sure everybody has jinx stories.
On your hand.
Yeah, the blood was on my hand.
Right.
Every guy especially has jinx stories, so they could write in and tell us what their jinx stories were.
By the great Tom Brady, because later in the game, it did go to overtime. Yeah. The Patriots, thanks to Matthew Slater, their special teams demon and leader, they called heads because you can talk about jinxes, but playoff coin flips, it's always heads. Yeah. Even though it's a 50-50 proposition, heads or tails.
Yeah.
You have to call heads. Yeah. This year, Baker Mayfield lost an overtime because he called tails. So I think Matthew Slater called it heads. It was heads. Brady got the ball, and he faced 3rd and 9, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 10. I know you don't quite get how the rules work, but you have to convert that. You have to get at least 9, then 10, then 10. Yeah. Because on 4th down, especially in the first 2 series of the downs, you're going to have to punt and give Mahomes the football, right? And Mahomes is probably going to go score and end the game.
Yeah, I get.
Because then you'd only need a field goal because the Patriots got the first crack at it. Okay.
Maybe Giselle at the time walked out of another room at his house and turned the game back for him.
Okay, because he converts 3 straight 3rd and longs to Edelman to Gronk. And then they run the ball with Burkhead down and score it, and the game is over, and I'm out of my mind. I am dancing in my man cave because Ernestine has been
She's been eliminated with that jinx because
you Giselle, have been foiled again.
Maybe she gave the good jinx, which was to undo the bad jinx that I did. You never know. She had power too. She was married to him.
Okay. But at least you've come to at least respect the power of the jinx. And for the most part, until you blunder in wanting to know what flavor I want, and
It was an innocent.
ruined the greatest college
what
game
flavor
ever.
do you want?
Yeah.
No. And then I just decided
Okay.
for myself what flavor I will be buying.
Okay.
And I also decided I will never ask you again. So
Thank you.
You'll be surprised every time you go to get a tasty.
All right. Case closed.
Yeah.
Okay. Now we segue from jinxes to, are you ready for this? Ghosts.
Spirits.
More accurately,
Spirits.
spirits. Okay. As you know, before I met you, I never believed in ghosts or spirits.
That's true.
I do believe in God.
That is true.
That was enough for me. I didn't acknowledge any other sort of supernatural power or form in this realm until that fateful summer night with you in my hometown of Oklahoma City. I believe it was your first trip
Yeah.
to what you thought was going to be the land of covered wagons.
Yeah, covered
right?
wagon land.
In
Yes.
Pony Express, right?
Yes,
That's how they get the
yes.
mail in Oklahoma
We
City, is
still
by
get the
Pony
mail
Express.
by Pony Express in Oklahoma City.
We're landing, and she's looking down
I
from
said
the
to him,
plane.
wow, this is
Are you
interesting.
okay?
And he said, they don't have covered wagons anymore.
Yeah, they don't have covered wagons.
I said, I didn't
Hazel's
think
never
they did.
been to
But
Oklahoma City. You're
Yeah.
a good girl. You're
Hazel
doing
will
a
go
good
to
job.
Oklahoma City
You're
one
doing a
day.
good job. You're doing a
Anyway.
good job.
Back to the spirit story.
So the first night we were there,
We
Close
stayed at
friend
your
of
friend's
mine.
house. Yeah.
from childhood, from junior high
Yeah.
school, was out of town,
Yeah.
he and his family. And so he just said, just stay at our house.
Right.
They have this huge house, nothing but room upstairs.
But we don't like staying with other people, so we
No,
like to
but
stay
this
in a
was,
hotel.
we didn't know each other that well yet.
Right, but I still don't like staying in somebody's house.
Okay,
And neither do
we
you.
would have known each other for about 7, 8 months. Maybe.
Yeah, so that's long
Okay.
enough to know. You don't like staying in a house.
I don't.
And
I
neither
don't.
do
In
I.
fact, this
So
is the last time we
we
tried
ever
this.
stayed in somebody's house.
So we unpack,
Right.
we dress for bed, we get into bed
Right.
in the room I had always stayed in pre-you when I visited them
Yeah.
in the summer to play golf. It used to be their daughter's room, now
Yeah.
vacant. She was gone and gone away. She
Yeah, she
grew
was
up.
gone.
Yeah.
Got married.
Yeah. And first we're being somewhat intimate
Well, we were
in
making
bed.
out on the
okay, we're
couch,
making
on the
out
bed,
in
on the
on the
bed.
bed, yes. And
And it was really
and
weird.
she's creeped out.
Right.
Like,
I thought, truth, hand to whoever, I felt something above me staring down from the ceiling.
she
It was a
did.
very weird feeling I'd never had before, and I never had it again.
She got the
And I
creeps
had-
and
it was
she
a
did
weird
not
feeling.
like it.
It was a weird feeling.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we attempt to go to sleep. Lights out. I do fall asleep for maybe, I don't think very long, 20,
10,
30
yeah, I was
minutes.
gonna say 10
maybe,
minutes,
Maybe
maybe.
10. And all of a sudden, I hear, as if it's next to me, a voice that at the very least was coming from just outside the window. We're on the second floor.
Right.
And it was clear as day to me
And it's
in
a
the middle
quiet
of night.
neighborhood.
And it's a very quiet neighborhood. Hey, you! Like that.
It was hey.
Hey,
Hey.
not you. I'm sorry. I put
Yeah,
the you.
hey.
And you were,
Hey,
yeah.
you. It was hey.
It was
Hey,
just,
you. And then you heard a dinging.
I did. But the hey was so powerful
Yeah.
that it just, I'm not a light sleeper. I mean, I can sleep through most things,
Right.
but this was right in my ear. Hey, you.
Right.
I'm like,
And then I woke
what?
up.
And now
We
I'm
were-
creeped,
We were just startled.
and I'm scrambling,
And
and
then
I'm looking down into the backyard.
Yeah.
You can see from the second floor window into the backyard, and there was a floodlight on in the backyard. I couldn't
there
see
was
a
nothing.
thing.
It was quiet.
And then,
It was like 2 a.m.
yeah, and
And
I
then
look at her,
We were like,
and she looks
"Feet,
at
do
me
your
and
stuff."
says,
And we were
"We're
out.
out of here."
We were like, it was
And
like the
we-
house was on fire.
Yeah.
And so we quickly threw on clothes and there was a bat in the baseball bat.
Yeah.
You grabbed the baseball bat.
I grabbed the baseball bat.
And
it's,
we didn't grab
the
any
hall
clothes
upstairs
or anything.
is a really long hall.
And at the end of the hall is a full-length mirror. So it was like a fun house.
She says mirror with no R on the end.
It's a mirror. I'm sorry. That's the
R
way you say mirror.
But it's okay. Mirror.
And it was like a fun house, and we were running down the hall, seeing ourselves in the reflection.
Kind of a shining hall, like Red Rum Hall.
Yeah, it was like The Shining.
Right. And it's one of those where you keep waiting to see
two twins
coming at you, right?
Red Rum. And we get and then it's a winding staircase down to the front door, and we get down, and then we were like, it's like an Abbott and Costello. We were like creeping, looking to see if anybody's around. And then we quickly opened up the front door, and the car was parked in the circular driveway. And we got in there really fast. It was like...
We didn't pack.
We didn't pack anything.
No.
And then we drove to the Marriott, and we checked in.
There's a Marriott like 10 minutes away.
And the woman goes, do you have any luggage?
Northwest Highway, if you know Northwest Highway in Oklahoma City.
She goes, do you have any luggage? We're like, no.
No.
We don't even have a toothbrush.
You don't?
No, we were running from the
I think she was a little suspicious.
It was kind of weird. We just blew in. We need a room.
Yeah. So we went back the next day and repacked.
Right.
And stayed
then
at the Marriott.
Then the question was, do we tell his friends who were coming back that night?
But we didn't tell them immediately.
No.
I don't think we told them until our next trip.
Like another year.
Another year.
We didn't know
and we took them out to dinner
at
Deep Fork
Grill.
And, oh, by the way.
Did you ever have any problems with ghosts?
Ghosts?
And Bev, who said, by chance, yes, we did. And so did Sam, their son.
Yeah, we did. We did have
We've
problems.
Heard noises, and
and they were just shrugging it off like, that happens, and then that happens.
Always hear.
And they were just like, so what?
But Craig said no, he wasn't aware of it.
But Craig would be oblivious to all of the above.
They said yes, we have heard noises, and we have heard women's voices.
Okay, so ultimately we moved to Los Angeles. Now it gets really deep creepy because I'm going to go to work out here, and because of the time change, I'm going to have to get up not at 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm going to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Every single morning I got up weekday morning at 2 a.m. and I did it for 8 straight years until it nearly killed me.
Right.
The first morning, on the first day of launching a new show, I'm up at 2. I'm on the treadmill. I'm prepping.
And we had moved here 3 months before that.
Well, no,
August.
No, we just got here a few weeks before that. We're not 3 months.
Wait, your show started in September. We moved here in August. So it's like 3 to 4 weeks
first. It was about 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're in this place, which at that point we were renting because we didn't know exactly where we wanted to land.
Right.
And it's a nice place, but it's new and it's different, and LA is completely different for both of us, even though I lived out here for a while right out of college. Well, but it's all new for you.
Yeah.
You're still asleep, obviously. We don't have her yet.
No.
She was about to come on Christmas.
Right.
And as I'm leaving, out by the atrium in this unit, there's a little bench where I kept my bag to take. It's about 5 till 4. And upstairs, there's an upstairs loft that serves as like an attic storage room, right? And it's slanted with the roof. And we had gym equipment up there in the room opposite it. I hear just like that.
Right.
Pretty close to that. Yeah. It might have been a touch lighter than or you know, have a little more tin in it than that. But it's
right.
I'm like, what was that? They're doing work on a mall nearby here at that point. They're revamping it, refurbishing, and I thought maybe even at 5 till 4, maybe they're doing some early construction, and we didn't know the neighborhood that well. And I thought, this can't be.
Yeah.
Next morning, 5 till 4. Right. Here we go again.
Right.
That was it.
Right.
My watch brought the correct tone to it. I'm like, what? And later I come back and I tell you, I
No, you didn't do that. No, you called my sister. So
Okay,
he calls
first.
my sister.
Okay, yeah, I told her
He
first.
calls my
I
sister,
did, Joyce.
who my
yeah.
sister said
She's
she
out
was
here
in the
also.
shower and she was all soaked up and she sees her cell phone ringing that Skip is calling. And she immediately thought something happened to me. So she runs out and she gets the phone and she says, "What's the matter?" And he says, I just wanted to say something to you, but don't tell your sister. I think there's a ghost in the house. And my sister was just like, okay, I have to just rinse off the soap. I'll call you back. So they talk about that there's a ghost in the house, but don't tell me. But my sister, being my sister, calls me later that day and she says, "Don't tell Skip, but I'm telling you, there's a ghost in your house." So I was
Great.
prepared
Thanks,
for this ghost in my house. So he comes back that afternoon and he says to me, "Okay, I don't want you to be upset.
Yeah, I don't want to alarm you, but
there is something weird going on here. There could be a ghost."
So we both go up to this storage room, open the door. It's dark, it's dusty, it's creepy.
Right.
And I find what looks like a broom handle.
Yeah, it was like without the broom on it.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, witch? Is
Right.
this a witch's coven
Right,
upstairs?
right.
And I take the broom handle and I bang it on that floor and create the exact same noise
Right.
that I had heard twice in a row at 5 till 4.
You heard it more than 2 times.
Yeah, I know.
I think you heard it like for a week going,
maybe.
week straight.
I kept trying to deny it.
Yeah, I think it was for a week.
And like, this is impossible. Now I believe there's some apparition up here that we don't know about.
So then we decide to find out who lived in the condo before us, because that's probably who the ghost is and they want to come back, but we're living there. So he convinces me and he says, "This is the person that's lived here before. They're trying to get us to move out because they want to get back in here, even though they're a spirit." So he's like, "We're going to have to talk to this woman." So the woman's name was Francine. So he said, "We have to go upstairs. We have to talk to this woman in the closet."
No, but we checked on the background.
No, this was before.
Francine.
Right,
Okay.
Francine lived there. So he says, "We're going to have to talk."
No, but didn't we check on whether she was alive or
No,
not?
that came later. So we start doing this. We're going to talk to Francine.
I read on the internet.
He says, we have to talk to Francine.
You can talk to spirit.
Right. So
out.
we're in the room, Francine. We don't
I made her
mean
go up
any
and talk
harm.
to Francine.
Francine,
and I just did
we are
it.
just here to live here.
Yeah.
You can stay with us. Just
You can
don't
stay
bang
with
in
it.
the
Just
morning.
please don't
I have to go
bother
to
us in
work.
the morning. Yeah.
Whatever.
I was
And
just
then
trying
in the
to
middle of
reason
that,
with the spirit.
yeah, but in the middle, I get a phone call from our realtor who I asked whatever happened to Francine, and she hadn't got back to me. So we were doing this little seance thing, and she goes, "Francine is alive and well and living in Phoenix." And we're like trying to channel Francine when she's dead, and she's not. She's living in Phoenix. So that was the end of that. Like, that's not Francine.
Okay, but we're still so
now we're
spooked
still,
by this.
what do we
Literally
do?
spooked. We go on Saturday with said realtor or her partner.
Yeah, we went looking for
we
a
went
place
looking
to live
for
because
a
this
new
was
place to
too
live because I
freaky.
just couldn't live with this.
Yeah, we don't want to live with ghosts.
Right?
Right. So then I had a shaman who I loved, who was the real deal, and his name was Joseph, and he passed
God
since
bless
then.
him.
But he was real. Like, I don't
He
care
was.
what anybody
I
ever
didn't
says
believe,
about.
but
they talk about.
He convinced me.
Yeah, people that read horoscopes. He wasn't that. He was real. He connected with past people, and I called him.
He's big believer in higher power.
Yeah, I called him and I said, "We're having this weird sound." He said, "You need to contact this woman that I know who deals with spirits, and she can help getting rid of them."
Mm-hmm.
So Skip emailed her.
And I felt really awkward and weird, but she said, "I can help you.
I just need the address."
And I'm like, she lives on the East Coast. And I'm thinking, you can remove a spirit from our place way out in Los Angeles.
Well, it's just the way I can change a game in Atlanta.
That's true. I didn't think of that. Touché.
That's the same thing.
Okay, you got me.
So only mine is fake and this is real.
I'm going to read you the email that this spirit remover sent to me a day later. You ready for this?
Buckle up.
This is from her. "I took the time tonight to send your wayward earthbound spirit home. He has crossed over and won't be bothering anyone again. He told me that he died in battle in 1528.
Wow.
He was very angry at himself for being caught unaware when he was hit in the heart by an arrow through the back. He was most upset for leaving his mother and 2 sisters, who he was taking care of, since the death of his father. This is just
so wild.
He was afraid of what would happen to them without him.
Aw, so sad.
He'd stayed near his family until their deaths. After this, he began traveling and ended up at your place. He had felt at home there, except for the people who also lived there.
Us.
The name I was given is Gavin, but no last name. Gavin appreciated your acknowledgement of his presence, but wanted the place to himself. He volunteered to cross over, especially when he realized his parents and sisters were waiting for him.
Oh, so sad.
And this woman continued in the email. After he crossed over, I searched your condo for other spirits who could be lingering there, and to my surprise, I found an infant.
We had
What?
heard, remember, we heard a baby crying.
We heard a baby crying, and we thought it was
thought it
next
was-
door,
but
but the walls are thick,
yeah,
and
but
there's no baby.
No baby.
In this
They're older
area.
people.
Yeah, okay. She says she found an infant. The baby was a girl who died in a miscarriage or an abortion. This baby last died within the last 5 to 10 years. Its physical body wasn't fully formed, but her soul was fully intact. She didn't cross over because of the abrupt end to her life.
Wow.
She was in shock because she'd been looking forward to her life with her chosen parents, and a deep sadness had set in. She was carried gently into the light to cross over. She will one day come back again, and her emotional turmoil and sadness is gone. I've learned during this work that once we cross over, the emotions we experience on earth do not exist while with God. Emotions like guilt, fear, anger, sadness, etc., are only experienced while we're on earth or earthbound as a spirit. Emotions make it harder to learn our lessons, or the reason we came here to start with.
And he was taking care of this baby. Remember, she said that he was
watching
over the baby.
Okay.
That is powerful.
We were
You
rocked.
can't make that up. This
No.
is not something that you can make up. And we never heard a bang again.
We never heard a bang again, nor a baby crying in that unit. And then, 4 years later, we moved to our current abode. And right away, I began hearing children like laughing and sort of cutting
Playing,
up,
yeah.
playing, just having fun.
So did I. We were sitting in the living room one night and we heard it coming from where the washing machine, the laundry room.
Yes.
We heard that. We thought it was somebody
Children.
had kids in the
It'd just
hallway.
be a whiff of it in the air. You'd hear it like that was just right
frolicking.
there.
Yeah.
Like that. They were just right here. They were 10 feet away.
We thought it was maybe
What?
somebody in the hallway, their grandkids or something, but it wasn't.
No.
So we got Brenda back on speed dial.
Okay. So we did contact this woman, and she did find that there were 3 children living in our unit as spirits who had died in, and I couldn't remember this.
The 20s, I thought it was, wasn't it?
The 1920s.
1920s.
In a fire.
In a fire.
First I thought
Yeah.
it was a flood, but
No,
I
it
think
was a
you're
fire.
right. It was a fire.
Yeah.
And
They were 3 sisters.
yes, and she successfully removed the 3 sisters, and right on schedule,
We never
we
heard it
didn't
again.
hear another peep. So, bottom line, I do believe in spirits.
I think a lot of
even
people,
though I believe in God.
I don't think it has anything to do with God. It just has to do with what is real. I think a lot of people hear things in their house, apartments, wherever,
Shake
and they
it
just
off.
shake it
Yeah,
off.
yeah.
And yet I know a lot of people that say, oh, yeah, a light goes on in my house every night. I know people that live where there was a suicide, and spirits linger. When I did my book, I met someone who was writing a book, and they worked with John Edwards, the John Edwards who connects spirits.
Psychic.
And
yeah.
she wrote a few books with him, and she told me he is the real deal. Just like our friend Joseph, there are people that can connect. I have a very special sixth sense.
She does.
I have a power beyond the jinx thing for real.
I think it feeds
where
into
I
the
can
jinx.
predict things. I can, if I think of someone that I haven't seen in 20 years and I think about them, I will pass them on the street, or they will call me out of the blue. I know when something's going to happen before it's going to happen. So I have a little bit of that. When I talked to Joseph, our shaman, about that, he said, you have a special power that you should hone in.
He did.
And you should read. He gave me the names of a couple of books to buy. But I think people have that, and they just block it.
Okay.
And so I think probably there are people out there that are watching or listening to this probably can say, I think you're right. I know that. I felt that. People just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
And they make it as though it's some kind of weird craziness. It's not.
Whew. Okay, enough about spirits. Back to the real world. Well, that's the real world.
Well, that is real.
Yeah.
This is the other part of the real world.
Okay, now it is time for questions. Let's start with the email questions. This is from Joseph from Philadelphia. What is the most difficult hardship you encountered together, and did it change your relationship?
Oh, that's without even thinking. Losing my mother. That was beyond I could even. My mother was my best friend.
She was.
And my mother.
You're the youngest.
I'm the youngest, and my sister is the oldest, and I have a brother who's the middle. But my mother was my best friend. I could tell my mother anything and everything, talk to her about anything and everything under the sun, from sex to drugs to rock and roll. And my mother was as cool as anything, even when she was 90.
Evelyn.
She drove a sports car. She played cards with 5 guys would come over her house. She had a card game table in her other room. And so losing her was, to me, losing a part of my life and my heart. And so that was the most devastating, because there was a part of me that when I did lose her, and I still can't even say the word DIED, that for a while, because we were together, but it wasn't that long, I think, maybe 4 years, 5 years, whatever it was. But you knew you were close with my mother. Not that I started to resent you, but a friend of mine told me, because I hated the world. I just hated the world, and I hated anybody that I would see who was older and they were walking on the street. And I felt like, why is that person here and my mother's not here? And I could not be happy, and I could not laugh or listen to music or anything. And a friend of mine told me, you can't take it out on Skip because your mother's not here anymore. And you can't take it out on the world that your mother's not here. But it's just something. Some people don't have good relationships with their parents. I wasn't that close with my father, but my mother to me was the world. And I miss her every single minute of the day to this very moment.
You do. I tried to tell you and make you believe that she lived a great life until she was 90.
Yeah.
Right? And
that doesn't cut ice with me. It's not. It doesn't mean that.
But she raised you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps, as she would always say.
My mother's saying,
right? And this was the ultimate. You're ready to become your own woman and to become her.
Yeah, but it doesn't. All that, when people say, the worst thing I think somebody can say when they lose someone dear into their life, parent, sister, partner, whatever it is. Oh, how old were they? The minute they say, how old were they? Then they're setting you up for, they lived a good life.
That's true.
Okay, who are you to say when somebody should live or die? And also they say, oh, I'm sure they had a good life. Well, they had more to live. My mother did not want to die. My mother loved life. Your mother was not happy with life. Your mother was more into, she didn't want to live anymore. My mother wanted to live. And so
it was hard on me to be as compassionate to you as I needed to be, because I wasn't close to my mother or father.
Right, and you could not understand that.
When they passed, although at that point my mother was still with
Yeah,
us.
your mother was still around.
But I did, when I first heard my mother was gone, I cried for about 5 minutes just because she was my mother.
Right.
And I did go to her service.
Right.
And I was fine because there was no closeness, no heart tugs,
Yeah.
because there was nothing to reach down for, because there never was much there to begin with. But this was the hardest
to me,
time.
I still can't even look at my mother's picture.
You can't.
No, my sister can. My sister loves thinking about my mother and talking to me about good times and remember when we did this. And to me, it's like, well, I don't want to think of that because to me, I know I can't do it again. It's over and I can't do it. So it makes me really sad. But she has my mother's pictures all over the place and I can't. And somebody, a friend of mine a long time ago when he lost his father, he said, when people come up to me, and he was close with his father, and they say, oh, I feel so sorry. You know, what, where's your father? And they don't know. And he says, my father's on vacation. So that became my thing. And with my best friend Francesca, when she lost her mother, she adopted that. And when people say to her, you know, where's your mother? She's on vacation. Or she'll say to me, we talk in code. We talk and we say, remember when your mother went on vacation? Yeah, and my mother went on vacation. We don't want to say those words because there's just, some people just can't deal with it. Everybody deals with grief and losing someone differently.
So it was hard on me because I don't think I was strong for you or supportive enough.
Well, you just didn't understand because you didn't know, you don't understand. Even to this day, the connection I had with my mother was different.
You said you literally held on to her apron strings.
Yeah,
like
I was with my mother 24/7 when I was little.
The apron strings didn't get cut until she passed.
Yeah.
Right?
I called my mother 14 times a day.
You did.
Ma, what do you think of this? Ma, what do you think of that? I could have a fight with my mother and then call her the next minute and say, hey, I just saw something on QVC. Do you want me to buy it for you? And that was my mother. My mother could understand anything I could say to her. Ma, sex-wise, oh God, do I have to hear this? Just shut up. Just listen to this. And she'd go, okay, what's the problem? And my mother had the answer for everything.
She did.
Even though my mother didn't go to college and my mother quit school at 8th grade because she had to help work when they were, you know, down on the Lower East Side, and she worked all her life. And my mother was the smartest person I knew, and it wasn't from education, it was from life. And that's what I miss, being able to go to my mother, talking to my mother about anything and everything.
And she became my mother.
Yeah, she loved you.
She did. And I am now convinced, and I told you from the start, speaking of spirits,
that Hazel's my mother.
Reincarnation, this is Evelyn.
Oh, God.
And I wanted to name Hazel Evie or Evelyn, right?
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
And she couldn't sort of live with that, so to speak.
I named my car Evelyn.
But I'm convinced that she operates as your Evelyn in canine form.
Because she watches over me.
She watches over you. She would die for you. She would attack for you.
Yeah.
She would, you know, she watches over you. She sleeps sort of on top of you with paws, just to make sure that she can go to sleep with you under her control.
Yeah.
Right? That's Evelyn. Okay. Let's take another question from Marcus from Ohio. How do you manage your sleep schedule with NFL playoffs around the corner? They're on us now. And does Skip allow himself to eat with you, Ernestine, during the playoffs?
God. Well, when you worked at ESPN, I lived in New York City. You were in Connecticut, except for the weekends. Fox, you got up at 2 o'clock. I don't think we ate together for 8 years, except for the weekends. Occasionally, well, except when there was NFL. Yeah. And then basketball, NBA, I would sit with you and eat.
Yeah.
But we never ate during the week.
Yeah.
For how many years? 12 and 8? I don't know.
20 years.
20.
Yeah. No, seriously.
Except for the weekends.
So here's the point. Getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I jumped out of bed at 2 every straight morning. This is 8 straight years, not to mention the previous 12 years.
12 years at ESPN.
Of 5 o'clock was hard enough.
But you used to get up at
the day actually does begin at 5. You can sort of tolerate 5, but 2 is in the middle of the night.
Inhuman.
And I would keep all of our clocks in the house
Right.
on East Coast time.
I
so
have
I could
my
try
room looks like a tour now.
Yeah.
It's got East Coast, West Coast. So.
Yeah, but I would try to trick myself into thinking it's 5 o'clock.
Right, and he would talk to me in East Coast time.
Yeah. What time
I
do
have
you want
to
to go?
eat dinner. You know, he'd say, I have to eat dinner. It's 8 o'clock. I'd say, 8 o'clock, it's 5 o'clock. It's 8 o'clock. So I'm living on 2 time zones in my head.
Yeah.
Even now, it's 2 time zones.
So not getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning has changed my health.
Oh, for sure. And my health.
Countenance, my presence, my overall vitality. And
being back to being normal.
And maybe. I think it's actually slightly improved our relationship because we do actually do couple things.
We do eat together.
Yeah. And we actually
watch
some nights
something at night because for 20 years, you and I, for 18 years, we never watched anything together except for the weekend.
Except for Friday night, which was date
Jeopardy.
night. And now we occasionally can watch that night's Jeopardy that night.
Yeah.
Before
but we never watched anything in real time.
No.
Because we were always on delayed.
All right, back to the drawing board. This is from Fabricio. If Ernestine has a medical emergency during a Cowboys Super Bowl skip, would you turn the game off to attend to her?
No. Call Joyce. Joyce, my sister, is on call. No. Remember when I needed stitches in my hand? Well, you had COVID. My sister drove me to the hospital.
No, the answer is no.
Forget it. Give it up.
Well, I'm sorry. That just is a condition of marriage, is that, the problem is you'll never have to worry about that because the Cowboys are never going to be in the Super Bowl with Jerry Jones as the owner-operator. It's just never going to happen.
Question. Okay.
I mean, it's now 29 years since they even played in an NFC Championship game, so there's no worry whatsoever.
He will be on
Next year, I've already predicted, I'm on record, they're going to be 9-8 and miss the playoffs.
Okay,
so we're good to go, right?
Joyce is
Everything is okay. But the condition, it's actually written in the marriage certificate that we have. Yeah. There's an asterisk, will not be available during Cowboys.
Oh, that's
Super
right. I
Bowl.
forgot that one.
Remember
okay,
that?
Good. Yeah,
I put it in.
It's fine. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not even in the prenup.
But is Ernestine available for skip? Yes, 24/7, no problem.
Okay. Don from North Carolina asks, Skip, what does Ernestine do to get you to disconnect from sports? Well, really nothing except...
That's like a newlywed question. That's kind of like the newlywed game.
We'd score because we'd both say nothing?
Okay. Yeah, we would lift up and go nothing.
But I will tell you this. I always say, I never miss a dribble of a LeBron James basketball game. I'm obsessed with watching him because he's the most interesting man in sports.
Yeah.
And he's an all-time great player, not the greatest player, but he's all-time great playing at the all-time greatest 40-year-old level that we've ever seen. Yeah. So I'm not going to miss this because lately he's been playing like he's 22 years old.
Yeah.
When the game ends, we're watching out here on Sports Spectrum LA.
Yeah.
It's the local cable. And she often will watch basketball, not football, but she'll watch on the weekends. She'll sit and watch the Lakers only because she likes to see celebrities.
We talked about this one.
And they're pretty good at pointing out that
who's there.
Will Ferrell is there, and Diane Cannon is always there. And you love Diane Cannon, right?
Yeah, I love Diane Cannon.
Who was married to Cary Grant. This is way before your time.
Yeah.
But she
was my time too. But
she was a sex symbol. She was hot.
And she's part of the Lakers.
I
just
love
like
that
Jack
movie.
Nicholson.
I have a favorite off-radar movie called The Last of Sheila.
Yeah.
It's a murder mystery.
It's great.
And it's great. I turned you on to it. And Diane Cannon is the star of that.
Yeah.
And now she goes to almost every Laker game. She's got season seats down on it's kind of just at the edge of the baseline.
But since what, the 60s or 70s she's been doing it. She has a ring.
70s,
the Lakers gave her a ring.
Yeah.
So she's just like Jack Nicholson.
Yeah. And she's 84 and she looks like she's 44.
Yeah, she's
right?
great. Yes.
I mean, it looks like she doesn't have a line on her face.
Great.
I don't know how she does it. We saw a video of her birthday party where she was dancing.
Yeah, she's cool.
God, I just hope I can
Me
do
too.
that.
God.
Wow, she's
We
something.
Go to Lakers games.
She's always saying, "Is Diane there?"
Yeah, I always make sure.
Okay, and then there's this little woman who we know a little bit about her background, but she's there every night with this woman who used to be a PR director of the Lakers, who's now her assistant, who sort of talks her through the game because I don't think she can see all that well.
No, we have to find out
and
more about
I think she's somewhat wheelchair bound, I think.
Yeah, I don't know,
but
she's
she
something.
sits right next to the visiting
next-
bench. She's on the front row.
Yeah, like LeBron standing in front
No,
of her.
it was the
sometimes.
other. It's the visiting.
Yeah,
It's
but I
the-
mean, sometimes
oh,
all the
no,
players
he'll
are
be
standing right
throwing
in
the
front
ball.
of her, and she's
Yeah.
just like part of the team.
Yeah, and you always say the little
Is the
woman's
little
there.
woman there?
Yeah.
You got to check in.
Yeah, I got to check
Okay.
up. I think somebody told us she's the daughter of a Japanese billionaire
Yeah, I
or
think
something.
there's
But
some kind of-
whatever.
Yeah.
But we faithfully watch the little
Yeah.
woman watch the
Yeah,
Lakers.
so
Here's the point of turning off sports. As soon as it goes to the Laker postgame featuring the great James Worthy,
then I say,
she always says, like clears her throat.
well,
like
I just say, can we
I-
watch
I
something
think-
else?
I think we should find something else to
because
watch.
you get caught up in your tweeting and whatever,
I'm
and then I'm
tweeting.
just sitting there watching this.
But
and
you think
at this
James
point,
Worthy is
I like
handsome.
James Worthy.
You-
I think he's handsome. I love his
He
voice,
has
and
a
I
great
like
voice.
Derek Fisher
when
whenever
he's on
Derek
there,
is on there.
Robert Ory is
Robert
on there
Ory, I like
sometimes.
him too.
And there are two
But-
white guys
yeah,
who look
I
like
like
they're
this. They
twins.
look like twins.
I don't know.
But after a while, it's like we've watched the game. Now we need to move on. So I
Yeah.
have to remind you. Can we move on now? And then you go,
So I
here's the
disconnect.
remote.
Yeah, I do. I flip it over to
Right.
you do it. You pick something.
And then I put on HGTV.
Yeah, but I got to finish tweeting.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now for some comments from YouTube. We start with @DamienThomas7153. These two. Oh my God. Ernestine always cooking Skip.
Ah,
Well, I wouldn't
I don't
go
even
that
cook.
far. She doesn't even cook,
I don't even
but she
cook.
cooks me
I
on this
boil
show.
water for pasta.
That's funny. That was a good line. That's true.
True.
I chose her because she doesn't cook.
You
'Cause I
chose
came
me.
from
Here
a-
we go. The horse in the
you
stable.
don't like that.
No.
Okay, I opted for you. I don't know what I did.
I don't know.
I-
You connected with me.
I
don't
connected with you in large part because you don't
didn't
like
cook.
sports
Oh.
and you don't cook because
good.
everybody in my family and extended family cooked except me. I was the black sheep because I could barely
know. Yeah.
microwave.
So together we don't
Okay,
cook.
so we don't cook, and I'm happy with that.
Cares?
I'm proud of it. I'm proud of you
I
for
like
not.
white tuna.
Okay,
Cans of white
out
tuna.
cans of
Make a
white
tuna salad.
Okay,
What do I care?
okay, but I'm sorry. I don't think I get cooked on this show. Maybe you'd like to
Okay.
delude yourself into
Yeah,
thinking
here we
that,
are.
but whatever. Okay, this
Imagine.
is from @JacksonSD9S. Skip me cussing her out. I can see it now. What the F are you doing, Ernestine? I do that. I do it sometimes on this show.
Oh, you
like,
do?
Like, what are you,
You do.
doing? What are you saying?
I just speak
That's
the
just
truth.
who we are. And there are many
Touche.
moments during the day off camera
Yeah.
when I'm like, what are you doing?
And
we
I say
fight.
the same thing about you. What are you
Hmm?
doing?
Well, and then
But
we
that's
figure it
normal.
out. Okay.
I
All
don't
right,
know.
that
It's
that
life.
is normal, but that's funny. All right, this is @Lizeth, LISETH 2323, Jordan. My mom's Maltese also lifts her leg when
Aw,
she pees.
Hazel.
We have no idea why. I
Aw,
guess it's a
little one.
Maltese thing.
Aw.
It's a Hazel thing. I
She
think she
says
needs
I
to pee
can't
right
help
now.
it. She says I can't help it.
Okay, you're kind of
She says you've outed
shattering
me.
my illusion here because my illusion
You
is
thought you were the only one that
that-
groomed a boy from a girl
that-
dog.
she wanted a girl, I wanted a boy, and so at least
So you got at least.
I somehow got the girl dog to lift her leg when she
Oh,
pees.
she said, "Now you outed me, and I have to be embarrassed."
we
Everybody
showed
saw
the
me
video.
peeing.
Maybe we'll show it now.
She said,
again.
"I'm going to tape
She
Skip
likes
peeing."
it. Yeah, like who would? Yeah, I invaded her
Yeah,
privacy.
she's going to do that one day with a little mini camera. She's going to tape you.
Okay. This is from Matt V4748. I bet Skip is a bit much, but I have found these small disagreements, and they are. This is way better than sports. This girl has to be a saint to put up with him.
Thank you.
True.
That is true.
That's true. I'll give you that.
That is true.
But we do have lots of small, very small disagreements that
We do have fun.
figure out. Okay, this is @ZachParker4436. Skip, you had an accident a year ago and she has never had one? This is in reference to our discussion
Thank
of
you.
I can't stand her
Right.
driving. If I'm riding
Yes.
shotgun with
Yes.
her, I just close
He's
my
bracing
eyes
himself.
and hang on.
Ah,
Well, I
Right.
did have an accident I talked about on my show,
Yeah.
but I talked about the accident, I don't know, a year and a half
yeah,
ago.
but you had one.
And
a
it
long
was
time ago.
actually got to knock on
Years
wood here. I
ago.
don't even like to discuss
Yeah.
these things, but it was in 1998, right after the Last Dance season when I was covering Jordan in
Yeah.
Chicago.
Don't go into it. It's jinxing it.
Okay, all right.
But
I was actually on my way to my first Bears camp.
Okay.
The Bears are jinxed.
so you had an
maybe
accident and I didn't.
and so you
Not
got me. You win.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Way to go. All right. He says that's the end of that discussion.
Thank you.
And we
That's
move on
true.
to at Michael Bridge OR7EN. This, meaning this show, has become a must watch. Thanks for sharing your lives.
Well, we appreciate that.
We do appreciate that.
Just our craziness that we live with every day.
So, for better and for worse, we pull back the curtain on our lives without flinching, without faking.
No.
And that is it for round 6 of Skip versus Ernestine. We will see you next week, if in fact we're still speaking.
We'll be speaking.
We
Don't
hope to
worry.
be.
We'll be speaking.
Thank you.
Peace out. Thank you.